If you've ever thought of starting a business, then don't start one until you watch this video. What's up, my friend? My name's David, and if you're new here, hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos about finding fulfillment and meaning in life. So let's get into it. So back in 2017, I worked in a bank for about 6 months or so. And obviously, working in a bank, you meet a lot of people. And invariably, I would ask them about their job and what they did for work. And then I would ask them if they enjoyed it. And I don't think I have ever had, there was probably one person who said they enjoyed their job. And I'll get to that story in a moment. But everybody else said, yeah, it pays the bills. And that one line really says everything about how most people live. They're in survival, or they're in the job for survival and not fulfillment. So in the years leading up to 2017, and also for about a year afterwards, I always thought that business was the ticket to freedom. Start a business and you won't have to work for anyone. You work for yourself and everything's fine. But it doesn't really work like that. In some cases, yes, it can. But in a lot of cases, especially in brick and mortar businesses, what ends up happening is you take on all the risk, the financial risk, the risk of uncertainty. Then quite often what happens, you end up buying yourself a more stressful job because you're there at the business all the time. You have to open, you have to close. You put in far more work than anybody else. You get paid last, and it's way more stressful. So I want to tell you about two business owners who I met during my time at the bank. The first one owned a $2 store, and he would come in and he looked tired, disheveled. He didn't look like he was really enjoying himself, and I would ask him about his business, and he would sometimes say to me, there's got to be an easier way to make money. And then compare that to this other guy who used to come in, who was a baker. He would wake up, he would wake up at like 3 a.m. or something, very early to start baking. And I asked him about his business, and he absolutely loved it. And I said, do you enjoy it? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. You can't really do this kind of job and not enjoy it. I mean, who wants to wake up at 3 a.m. just to bake unless you love it? And the biggest difference between the two of them was that the baker had a business that aligned with who he was, whilst the other guy clearly didn't. So it wouldn't have mattered whether the other guy started at 9 a.m. versus the baker who started at 3 a.m. or woke up at 3 a.m. every day. The baker was so energized and excited about getting to work, and that's what drove him. Whereas the other guy, he just went there, did his thing, and came home, whilst he was searching for a better way to make money. Even though you could argue that the baker's life was far harder because he was waking up so much earlier and his days were much longer. So while a lot of people believe that being your own boss is the dream and it's the way to go, a lot of people ignore the question, what really lights me up? What's going to get me out of bed? Because I can tell you that I've spoken to a lot of people about starting businesses, and most people who don't give it too much thought, they always really fall into one or two things, either starting a pub or starting a restaurant. And there's nothing wrong with either of those, but sometimes these people hadn't even worked in those industries before or in those businesses, yet they still wanted to start one. So it didn't really make much sense to me. And that's why it pays to develop as much self-knowledge as you can, because without self-knowledge, what's likely to happen is you'll start a business that won't be aligned with who you are, and you'll just wind up in a worse position. When I say worse, I mean working more, longer hours, highly stressed, and in the early stages of business, it can take many years for the business to be profitable. So you'll be getting less money, but you'll be your own boss, and you'll think, well, this is what it's all about. But what's really happening is you've created another job for yourself, which is higher risk, but with more misery attached. So before you start a business, ask yourself, what energizes you? What drains you? What are you excited about? What are you interested in? What's going to lean on your special skills? What's your zone of genius? What's a problem that you actually care about solving? Because once you know the answer to all those, then you can start to build something around them. And if you choose to skip the self-knowledge part, then what's likely to happen is you will end up starting a business, and somebody will ask you one day whether you enjoy it or not. And your answer will be the same as everybody else's at the bank that I spoke to. What pays the bills?